gather information. I think over around 70% of the president's what's called his daily brief, when the intelligence community briefs the commander-in-chief, most of the information they give him comes from gathering the information gathered through this program on foreign targets. And so the idea that there's a question of whether this can continue based on what the court has said, I think is just something we shouldn't do, particularly in light of the fact we're in a military operation in Iran, for goodness sake.
There you have Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. He's also the House Judiciary Committee chairman, talking about FISA. And I think that it's always good to kind of explain things before we just go in and talk about what happens next with them, because FISA is a very, very important topic for this country and a hotly debated one as well. Let's bring Chad Pergram on with us, chief congressional correspondent for Fox News and also baseball play-by-play broadcaster. Chad Pergram, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's first talk about FISA, and then we'll get to the fun stuff. The FISA, as of the last time I heard your report, they have not ironed out a deal on it. Can you briefly?
There's no deal.
Yeah, set us up with what FISA is. What's at stake here?
Yes. So FISA is a special intelligence program that people in the intelligence community and a lot of lawmakers from both sides of the aisle say this is our premier intelligence gathering tool to combat possible terrorism. Well, what it does is it goes through and scoops up everything, every phone call, every email, every text message. It's voluminous. And what they do is they can figure out, okay, Chad and Annie Frey are talking. We have a problem with Chad talking to Annie because we think when they talk, bad things tend to happen or have the possibility of happening. Maybe we should go get a warrant and determine what they're actually talking about. In other words, it doesn't tell us what we're talking about. It just says that we're talking. And then if they go and get a warrant, they can say, aha, that was pretty innocuous between Chad and Annie. But they have the ability to scoop this all up. So a lot of Republicans and civil libertarians on both sides of the aisle have said this is just, this abridges the Fourth Amendment of searches and seizures, the fact that they can pick up anything. We want reforms. There was another section of FISA, which President Trump had problems with some years ago, that this led to the Russia investigation. In fact, he did not want it renewed at all, but he has changed his position. Same with Jim Jordan, the chair of the Judiciary Committee from Ohio. So they keep punting, trying to re-up this periodically, and they've done interim extensions. They finally put together a very fragile agreement that was going to need a coalition of Democrats and Republicans to pass it. Well, as soon as the president nominated, or he didn't nominate, he installed Bill Pulte as the director of national intelligence on a temporary basis, Democrats said, wait a minute, this guy has no background in intelligence. He is a partisan hack. So they pulled all of their support for the bill. And FISA, I'm going to be very careful in wording this right now. FISA does not go dark Friday night into Saturday morning. What happens is they lose the authorization by Congress to allow the program to exist. And what happens, and this gets a little technical, but it's very important. They believe that what happens is that the FISA court, there's a special, very secret FISA court that deals with these intelligence matters, and that it still is authorized to let the telecommunications companies to pick up this information for the next, almost 10 months. And so the program does not, quote, go dark. But the root of the program is the cooperation by the telecommunications companies to provide all this data. So if you don't have the data, and the supposition is they might be a little bit leery of doing so if they don't have that congressional blessing to do so, air cover, that's legal air cover. And so if you don't have the information, then guess what? And this comes at a crucial time. World Cup starts today. Yes. War in Iran, America 250. John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, was just on the floor a couple of minutes ago saying, we have hundreds of thousands of people coming here right now. This is terrible. And so Republicans are already starting to kind of pivot to say, if something bad happens, blame it on the Democrats. But the problem was they tried to do an interim bill just today in the House, and they didn't even get a simple majority. They didn't even get 200 votes for this. The reason is that you had 19 Republicans vote no. It's always about the math, as I say. And even in the past 20 minutes or so here, the president has named Jay Clayton, who is a U.S. attorney, to be the permanent intelligence, the director of national intelligence, and there are some. I had one Republican source, mind you, just texted me a couple of minutes ago saying it doesn't appear that the president is serious about this because we don't like his, credentials when it comes to national security either. So Congress has left. The Senate is still in session. They just took their final vote for the week. The House left this morning. There is no way to pull this back and say, oh, we're really worried about safety and security at the World Cup. Let's scramble and get something together. That ship has sailed because they're done for the week. And so at 12:01 Saturday morning, they will be without this intelligence gathering tool.
Well, that is a great precursor for this FISA debate that's taking place right now. I had a couple questions written down here. You've sort of answered most of them, but it doesn't seem as though that this is a partisan concern. It's a bipartisan concern. It's not like Republicans are for it. Democrats are not going to let the Republicans get a win here. And I was also going to ask you about evidence of abuse of the FISA system, which is what is causing at least some of these individuals to say no, that it could be reformed. Maybe not all or nothing. Yes, get rid of the whole thing. Yes, keep the whole thing. That there could be reforms that are made to it. Has that happened before?
Well, some of the reforms in this bill, and that's why a lot of people thought that they were really getting somewhere here, that they had worked out a bipartisan agreement that they could prosecute people who abuse this. They limited the access to people who had, could go into the FISA files and see some of this stuff. They really limited that. Those were important guardrails, and that's why they were able to get this bipartisan agreement. But, this happened a few weeks ago when they were on the precipice of funding ICE and the Border Patrol, and the president, the issue with the weaponization fund came out, and they couldn't pass that bill again for another 3 to 4 weeks. Here you've had the same thing happen. Democrats and some Republicans will say they've fired another hand grenade into this debate when we thought we had this worked out legislatively, and the Democrats packed up and said, we're not going to help you with this. And you can pin that on the Democrats, certainly because they need their votes. But, some would say, it's up to the president to work with us. And, because there's certain problems we have with people, and if you're going to put somebody who we don't interpret as being serious, and it's not like suddenly that, this Jay Clayton thing is very new in just the past few minutes, that they have full confidence in him. And it's not like you go out to the parking lot and say, turn around, make a U-turn, let's come back in here and vote now. Look at this guy. He's not Bill Pulte. It doesn't work that way. I mean, the House is gone. The Senate's barely here right now for the rest of the week.
So, Chad, I want to speak with you, too, about the reconciliation, the $70 billion that funded, that was post-shutdown, everything that has been closed down. And TSA, we all reflect back on the spring breaks that got messed up because TSA lines were long and so on and so forth. The FISA conversation seems a little more bipartisan in concern for getting something done here. But the shutdown was 100% partisan. It was blue versus red through and through. Now that is over, what did the Democrats amass in their effort to shut all of this down? What'd they get out of it?
That is something that has been asked a lot. They probably got, and maybe this is more important than actually getting a result, they got political capital. If you remember back early last year when they were dealing with Trump 2.0, there was criticism from their base that they were not fighting hard enough. Well, they landed on this strategy to fight about health care, the Obamacare subsidies going away. We haven't talked about that in a while.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That was part of the shutdown. And then it morphed into, after what happened in Minneapolis, it morphed into this conversation about ICE and Border Patrol. See, and here's another example, that they were starting to get on a maybe in a way that they could actually provide the votes for something, or certain members could vote for something. And then you have these other events, which is what happened in Minnesota. And the Democrats made this kind of a cause celeb that they just were not going to vote. And that's going to be a problem this fall, too. They have to fund the government, all the government, right before the midterm elections. And that's where a lot of people think you thought, last year was good. I mean, that was kind of an amuse-bouche for what we're in for this coming fall, even though it is an election year.
Yeah. The next budget, I mean, if we were just being A-plus Gold Star students in Congress, when should that be done?
Okay. We asked a couple of different things there, and you might not have realized it. The budget people say, well, you have to submit a budget. Well, guess what? We didn't have a budget for almost the first 200 years of this country. They passed the Budget Act of 1974, which was the first creation of the modern budgetary process. So when you use the term budget, a budget in congressional parlance is a little bit different. That is something that the president, under the Budget Act of 1974, is required to submit for Congress, which was really a glorified wish list. Here's all the things that I would like to do.
Sure.
So what really counts are appropriations. So the appropriations, those are the things, those are the live ammo that the Congress can spend with. That has to be approved, all 12 bills, if you're doing it by the book, by the 1st of October. So would you believe that the bills, the last section of the last bill that was supposed to be due last October was passed Tuesday?
Yeah.
So you think you're going to get this all done on time this fall?
It ain't happening.
Party har har.
Chad Pergram speaking with us right now. I don't. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So I'm aware that the $70 billion has been spent, and that thing has been put to bed. But they're going to have to go through a whole appropriations process again here very soon. I'd imagine they're working on it quite heavily up until that point. But then the delay.
This week, you've had Susan Collins, who's the chair of the Appropriations Committee. She has, postponed markups, which is where they're writing the bill because of disagreements with the Democrats. She was supposed to mark up and prepare some of these bills. I suspect what they'll probably do is pass a couple of House bills that are the least controversial ones later this summer, and then we'll be into a crisis mode in the fall. And even last night, you talked about the Congressional baseball game. They were marking up, of all things, mind you, for the next fiscal year that starts October 1st, fiscal year 2027, the Homeland Security Spending Bill. And Tom Cole, the chairman of the committee, congressman from Oklahoma, he said, okay, we're not going to have any more votes until the game is over and all the players now can go to the field. So they continued in the committee last night during the ball game to have this. He expected everybody back, 30 minutes after the end of the game. The game ended at 9:32. And Mike Levin, who is a Democratic representative from California, plays third base. He had an amendment. The first amendment that was pending for a vote was about TSA. So this comes full circle. The problem you just alluded to at the top of our conversation.
Right. Absolutely. Chad Pergram speaking with us. You did mention the baseball game, as did I at the beginning, and I was sitting yesterday was my daughter's 5th birthday, so we were sitting at Applebee's, and they had the Cardinals playing the Mets on the TVs everywhere, but I had my phone open to C-SPAN like a nerd watching the Congressional baseball game, and it is so entertaining to watch. And you and your partner Kevin Cork did such a great job of narrating it.
Thank you.
I want you to take us a little bit behind the scenes. I mean, if people want to watch the game, they can watch the game. There's a lot of fun highlights, a lot of interesting things that happened in the baseball game. But talk to me a little bit about the exercise of the Congressional baseball game. Why does it exist, and what kind of purpose do you think it serves there on Capitol Hill?
Well, it's the national pastime, and this goes back to 1909, where you had, John Tenner, who was a congressman, started the game. It's been controversial off and on for the years, as far back as 1914. Champ Clark from Missouri, Speaker of the House, he thought the members were spending too much time focusing on this ball game, and he sent the House Sergeant at Arms to go get them, to bring them back, because he didn't have a quorum to debate an appropriations bill, mind you. So, again, more things change. More this is, more stay the same. Sam Rayburn, the legendary Speaker of the House from Texas, he banned the game because people were getting hurt.
Yeah.
It was too violent. And even last night, you saw your senator from Missouri, Eric Schmidt. He made what I think, from a pure baseball standpoint, might have made the most amazing play I've seen yet. It was a fly ball deep down the left field line. He dove into foul territory. He caught it in the webbing of his glove. He came up and he had, a bloody nose, blood all over his face. This morning he didn't look too bad, worse for wear. He said he was kind of, skinned up on his arms and his legs, but his face didn't look too bad. But you say, what do they get out of this? Annie, they have a congressional soccer game. They played that last week. They have a congressional basketball game. They have a congressional softball game where the female members play members of the press corps, softball. They have a congressional hockey game. They have a congressional flag football game against the U.S. Capitol Police. All of these sports, and where do we stand with bipartisanship?
Mm-hmm.
Is this really just spin? I mean, all we hear here is that, this is in the nature of bipartisan and we're going to work together and everything. Can somebody quantitatively point to me what these games have produced legislatively on the House or Senate floor? I get it. I'm as big a baseball fan as anybody. I enjoy calling the game. It is a great spectacle. I'm amazed at how many people come out. A friend of mine from high school, she watched the game a few years ago when I was calling it on FS1 and said, this is a game I need to see, and came to Washington and is here right now. Watch the game. Great. But let's get down to brass tacks here. They're not here to play baseball. They're here to legislate.
Right.
And so I do want to see, just playing devil's advocate here a little bit, they can say, this is producing bipartisanship. I want to see something that comes out of that game, or is that just all very high-minded goals? So far, I don't think there's anything that somebody can say, this really helped, improve relations in Congress.
Yeah, I do understand it's a charity event. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I should note that's very important. They have raised a staggering amount, and this is a great thing, amount of money for charities in Washington, D.C. 44 charities, $3.2 million at least. I think it's going to be higher based on what I'm told, which is a record. They were only at $2.8 million last year. I say only, that's still an awful lot of money. They had 32,000 tickets sold at Nats Park. The Nats only averaged 22,000, by the way.
Yeah.
It was, and it was a nice night for baseball at the end of the day. So it is a great event in that sense, and maybe they don't get something out of it legislatively, but you cannot question the charitable benefits out of it.
Yeah, I love watching the game and seeing a batter in the batter's box from one team pat the catcher on the shoulder when they walk up. I mean, it's such a small thing, but it is important for us to remember the importance.
Last time I saw somebody do that, there was a brawl. I'm a Reds fan, as you know, and Brandon Phillips did that, with your catcher, with the Cardinals, Yadier Molina, and it caused one of the worst brawls in baseball history
Chad,
in 2010.
Would you believe that I've been to Great American Ballpark one time, and I was at that
Really?
game?
You were at that game.
I
was
was
at
that game, my husband and I holding our 10-month-old baby in Cardinals gear in left field, just a little bit on the side of where Yadier Molina did hit a home run. And that was wild. Of all of the games to be at, it was kind of a Forrest Gump moment for me to just randomly be there at that point. Thank you for the update. Thank you for the broadcast last night, for making that as entertaining as you did.
Thanks for watching.
We look forward to having you back soon. Take care.
Thank you, Annie. See ya.
Bye-bye. Yeah, that is one of the weirdest things of all the games to be at Cincinnati for a Cincinnati Cards game. I was at the massive brawl. Ended Jason LaRue's career. He got cleated in the face by Cueto. Couldn't control himself. And then the Cardinals, it looked like we were going to go in and head directly into a really, really strong close of the season. And in 2010, we did not. That was like the end. And then it kind of piddled out from there. But 2011 now, that's a different story. We'll be right back.